in the book. Whatever page I opened it to. 2 pages. Dan has died, which I've already said. Or it's Don, because it's got 2 A's. Don has died, which I've already said. If I read it again and again, perhaps it'll all sink in. The funeral is in Belgium. And I have my plane ticket. October 3rd, I leave. This will be my first time out of the country, aside from one cursed trip to Canada, which I don't count. I imagine myself at the church in the small town surrounded by people speaking a language I do not know, and himself in the casket there with the lid folded open. It was a quarter century ago the last time I saw him. I think that's right, give or take. I can see him the day he left. I can see him walking into the tunnel at the airport beside Fiona. He had blonde hair and he wore it rather long. He had stayed very slim, and I can see him walking down the tunnel beside Fiona wearing his denim and leather loafers he loved. He was wearing a wool blazer and he had his traveling bag. I remember Fiona looked back at me over her shoulder. She gave me a little wave, nothing dramatic. She would be coming back in the summer. Here is a small detail I remember. I could see as she turned her face back in the direction they were walking, that she was saying something to him. I could see her mouth moving. But of course they were too far away for me to know what she was saying. I hoped very much she was saying something about me, how I was standing there, or some little thing, and I really hoped he said something back. I wanted him to look back the way Fiona had, but he didn't, and I guess probably up until that point it hadn't been true to me yet. I hadn't really believed what was happening, but then he was gone without looking back, and a shockwave hit me deep down in my bone marrow. It felt like my body was vibrating the way air trembles after a gong is struck. Why was I saying this? Yes, I am not sure if I can stomach that image I have of him leaving the last day in all of his professional stature, being replaced by the shriveled, diseased, ravaged corpse of an old man. I think that's a roundabout train of thoughts. I'm terrified. However, one must attend the funeral. There is nothing I can think of more important than the prioritization of attendance to a funeral. Someone is stalking me. After Judge Donnelly died, the individual contacted me with a letter, a rather crass and vengeful kind of letter, which was disturbing. I had not received anything of the sort in a long time, though it reminded me of when we were in the courthouse years, how Guy and I and others would receive those kind of nasty missives from time to time. People disgruntled and hateful about the way a ruling had gone, and back then I did not have my address listed in the public record for that very reason. The subsequent note had arrived, though uncomfortable, did not make me afraid, and I tried to put it out of my mind. However, after some time, I guess maybe another year went by, and I received the 3rd communication from this individual, but it was evident he or she had visited my house. I know it's true, because in the letter, she or he seems like a man described my gardening in my unique mailbox. You might wonder if I have any idea who this person is. I do not. They have their communications with two initials, and that is that. The individual threatened to pay additional visits to my house. I get the sense that the purpose of this is rather to make me feel afraid and not likely to harm me in any way, and it's working. When I read it, I felt frightened, really frightened, cold. I can't think of the last time I felt this way. I hate to feel afraid. I can think of nothing worse, so I imagine this person watching me as I slowly go blind. I imagine this, and when blind, how I won't even know, and I'm sure anyone would advise me to call the police, but I won't do that. What would they do other than send up a patrol car every so often? Enough now. I'll let you know how things go regarding the funeral. Dear Joan, it's the day of Don's funeral, my ex-husband, and I've got the plane ticket sitting here on the desk on top of a book stack. At the last minute, 3 days ago, I didn't go to the airport. I simply didn't go. If I regret the decision, then so be it. My life is in winter anyway. Only a little while left to nurse regrets. I went back and reread The Year of Magical Thinking. The first time I read it, years ago, I recall thinking I would return to it one day, and although my situation is different than yours, with all these years that separate Don and me, I found so much of it put word to the way I do feel, whether I have any right to or not. Of course, I don't really have the right. Do let me know how you're getting on. Sybil. Mom, I'm back in London now. Wait brought Charles back last week, but I stayed to help Linda go through some of Dad's things. This funeral was perfect. Held in the old, beautiful Catholic church where Oma and Opa got married. I met some distant cousins, etc. I have a hard time wrapping my head around why you didn't come. Bruce said it's your fear of flying. Fine. I know you don't travel, and I've told myself that's why you haven't ever come to visit me in London. But with all your principles of propriety, all your tenets on how one ought to be, you attend a funeral, even if it's somebody you didn't know well, even if you had a grudge. Fine that he's not your husband anymore, but he was my father, Bruce's father, Gilbert's father. You should have been there. You know, a lot of times if I'm angry and I take a little time, my feelings will cool off, but the longer I sat with your not coming, the angrier I got. Lena told me he wrote you a letter and waited for a reply, but you didn't write back. You sit holed up at home writing letters to God knows who every day, and knowing full well he was dying. I don't understand you. I have never understood you. Anyway, Dad left some things to you. A necklace of your mother's you must have. Said you liked a book, I think. Maybe something else. Bruce has them. He said I'll see you in a couple weeks. Dear Miss Van Antwerp, my name is Angela Bleecker, and I'm attorney with the law firm Drost and Brussels, Belgium.